This was the third fence Ollie had helped Phil put up. I just don't understand it. I've checked the instructions, we're doing it right, but it keeps on coming down. You see, Phil lived kind of on the edge of one of the parks in the city, and he wanted to put a fence up along his property line because he didn't want people or animals to wander into his yard from the park. It seemed reasonable. So the first fence they put up was a real basic, cheap, simple one. And all had helped. They drove in metal stakes about every 10 feet, and they stretched a flexible plastic mesh fence material from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Seemed fine, but it didn't hold. A week later, Phil went to the property line and found the fence had been just knocked right over. Some of the poles ripped out of the ground, the fencing all torn up and scooted out of the way. So he called Ollie. He and Ollie went back over there and they put in a tougher fence. The next fence they put in was kind of a cattle gate style fence where it was made out of posts, where there was a post every 12 feet and then 12-foot length boards. Sorry, post every 10 feet and then 12-foot length boards strung between them in an X pattern. And that seemed a lot more sturdy. But that also didn't hold. A week and a half later, a bunch of the X's were knocked over. And there were tracks, animal tracks, coming from parkland area into Phil's yard. Now, Phil wasn't just doing this whistling Dixie. He had 3 small dogs and 1 small child. So he wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything nefarious coming out of the park and that his dogs wouldn't run off into the woods. He wanted to be able to just let his dogs out and not worry about them. But, yeah, the cattle gate style fence didn't do it. Didn't do the job. Excuse me. So now Phil was getting serious. He was like, I didn't want to go through all the expense, but we're just going to do a classic chain link fence. That should hold. So they drove the steel fence posts into the ground using kind of an anchor system. Not full-on concrete posts, but an anchor system. And they rolled out the heavy chain link fence around the posts and secured them according to the instructions. And it was about 4 feet tall. It wasn't actually just Ollie and Phil. They got 2 other friends to help. And it looked pretty sturdy. And Ollie said, Phil, I don't mind coming out to help. I enjoy hanging out with you and your wife and your kid and your dogs. But it seems like every time we put up a fence, it's getting trampled. So I wonder, what if I did a stakeout for you on the house, just because we're friends? Try and figure out what's going on here. Phil said, I wouldn't want to impose. That's like what you do for work. I don't want to ask you to do that for free. I said, no, you're not asking, I'm offering. I said, all right. Or Phil said, all right. That'd be great. It'd be good to know what we're up against. I said, it won't even be a hard one for me. I'm going to bring a hammock, climb up in the trees, set up my hammock to where I can see what's going on. Because it seems like every time the damage is located in basically the same spot over there. Phil said, yeah, you're right. It is kind of, it's mixed, but it's more there than anywhere else. So once they finished getting this fence set up, I went back to his apartment, got a hammock, climbed up a tree, had himself a book, a big jug of ice water, and he just hung out there. Now, I was realizing as he got himself settled in that it's usually a week and a half or a week before the damage was done. So he didn't actually want to sit up in this tree for a week straight. But he figured he would do this night and then maybe set up one of those motion sensor camera type things. Well, it turned out that he didn't have to wait a week, because at about 2 a.m, Ollie saw something he did not expect to see. Because a lion wandered up out of the park, sniffed around the fence, bounced against the fence a couple of times with its paws, and then, after investigating the fence thoroughly, ran full speed and leapt right at the top of the fence between two fence posts. It kind of bounced off, but it did a lot of damage to the fence in that run. One of the two fence posts started to come up. 3 or 4 more runs, and the lion was in, walking around the yard, looking for who knows what, whatever a lion looks for. Now, there was a lot weird about this, because A, why did the lion want to be in Phil's yard? And B, why was there a lion in the city park? That said, Ollie did not want to, fight a lion. So he just minded his business, watched the lion. The lion wandered around the yard for a little bit, sat underneath the deck for maybe an hour, and then wandered back out the way it came. This was all very strange, mind you. After that, Ollie dozed. He figured he had the mystery figured out. He woke up in the morning, packed up his gear, knocked on Phil's door. Oh, hey, Ollie. Oh. Come on in. Can I get you a cup of coffee? I said, that'd be great. You've got coffee and I've got information. He told Phil all about the lion. Phil said, are you serious? A lion? Well, shoot. That seems like serious business. There shouldn't be lions just wandering around the city parks. I said, I know, right? We better do you call the animal control or the zoo for this sort of thing? Phil said, I think we should call it the zoo first. Animal control is going to be coming to it from a scary animal, let's get it standpoint. The zoos, if it's their lion, they're going to be real excited to hear about it. So Ollie called up the zoo. He didn't have didn't know who exactly to call. Ollie is a member at the zoo, and he does some events with the zoo, but just called in the main office and said, hey, this is Ollie the octopus. I don't know if you remember me. And the lady said, oh, sure, Ollie. Hi, how are you? This is Shannon. Shannon was somebody that Ollie had worked with on some of the events they did together. I said, oh, Shannon, hey, good to talk to you. So listen, there's a lion wandering around Stony Run Park. There was a moment of silence on the phone, and Shannon said, that's where it is. Oh, man, Ollie, man, you have done us that's amazing. That silly lion, it got out like a month ago. We've been trying to keep it quiet, to avoid panicking anybody, but it made it all the way to Stony Run Park. Man, I mean, I can see, yeah, they connect. I can see how it got there, but whew. All right. We will have our lion people out there today. Where'd you see it? And I gave Shannon all the information. And they sent out a whole crew. They ended up doing a stakeout again on the guy's property. They did catch the lion. At first, the lion was not happy about being caught, but then when it saw that it was the people that it kind of knew from the zoo, it calmed down and, went along quietly. Whew, Phil said. I know, right? Ollie said. It's a crazy thing to have to deal with. A lion in your backyard. Well, Phil said, I guess there's one more thing I gotta ask, Ollie. I said, yeah? You want to come this weekend and help me fix the fence? And that was the case of Ollie and the falling down fence.